Republicans.
Okay. This shutdown of the government is completely unnecessary. Last night, the Senate Democrats made a decision not to join us in funding the government, in providing support to our military, and reauthorizing the Children's Health Insurance Program. They made the choice to shut the government down, to deny our troops their pay and keep health care and important coverage for some of our most vulnerable, children and pregnant women, 9 million across the country, from moving forward. It's really disappointing. It's sad. They chose the path of dysfunction, and they are failing our most vulnerable, voting against a bill with issues that they have no opposition to. They do not disagree with anything that was put in the continuing resolution. And now, unfortunately, states all across the country face uncertainty. Children across the country, including in Washington state, are running out of the funding through the Children's Health Insurance Program. Today, military academies, active duty and service reserve members and their families face uncertainty while they are on the front lines keeping us safe and secure. Americans should have trust and confidence in their representatives to solve problems on behalf of the people, not play games. It is our fundamental constitutional responsibility to fund the government. Democrats have put false deadlines and politics in front of doing what is right for the people. And unfortunately, we are now engaged in a Schumer shutdown. So I encourage you to go to schumershutdown.com for more information. And a number of members will be speaking on this issue right now, and we're going to begin with Representative Andy Barr from the great state of Kentucky.
Well, thank you to our conference chair, Kathy McMorris Rogers, for your leadership. And you're absolutely right. This is a disappointing day for the country. But in order to assess really how we got here, it's really important to review the historical record from the last 6 months. The House of Representatives, House Republicans, passed all 12 appropriations bills, not only on time, but ahead of schedule in September. More than 5 months ago, the business of the House was completed, and we fully funded the government. And House Republicans also reauthorized the Children's Health Insurance Program for 5 years back in November. But Senate Democrats obstructed both of those pieces of legislation, the CHIP reauthorization and the full funding of the government, just as they blocked the House-passed CR just earlier this week, which included a 6-year extension of the Child Health Insurance Program, in addition to full government funding of our military and other programs. I want to talk a little bit about CHIP because I come from Kentucky, the 6th Congressional District of Kentucky, and we know that over 9 million American children depend on CHIP, but there are 90,000 children and families in the Commonwealth of Kentucky that depend on the Child Health Insurance Program. So it is extremely disappointing that Senate Democrats, led by Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, blocked this non-controversial legislation solely for the purpose of making unrelated, politically motivated, and divisive policy demands. So, Senator Schumer, where is your heart? Senator Schumer, where is your head? It is not only reckless, but it is wrong to jeopardize access to health care for children in need. I call on Senate Democrats and Senator Schumer in particular. We've done our jobs. Now you do your job. Stop this partisan obstruction, end the Schumer shutdown, and vote with us to reopen the government immediately, pay our troops, and help these children in need. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, all of you, for being here with me, and thank you for showing up here. And, I want to first say I think it's unconscionable that there's government funding being held up for an issue that has nothing to do with funding the government. It's an abdication of the basic constitutional duty by this Congress to hold this government up for an issue that was being negotiated in good faith, by the way. Continuing negotiations are going on in good faith by an issue that has nothing to do with holding the government up. I want to read a quick letter to you. I've been getting these Facebook messages and emails and letters from folks domestically and abroad because, as many of you know, I represent the district that has more military active duty and veterans than anyone in the nation. And let me read this letter to you really quickly. Sir, with great respect, I'm a retired Air Force veteran, civil service employee, and a single mother of 4 sons. For 20 years, 1 month, and 21 days, I served my country. I have continued my service to the country as a government employee since my retirement. This shutdown is going to cripple my family. You see, while I wait, hope, and pray for a swift resolution to this, I have to work out how I may have to support my family. And I've heard this throughout the day, yesterday. With this government shutdown, you heard about CHIP, 9 million kids in need that we're not helping out, 65,000 of them in Virginia. Homeland Security and CIA and other frontline protectors are trying to figure out who they're going to bring in to work on Monday and who's essential as opposed to dealing with their mission. I think most importantly, the military won't be paid. But I do want to assure all of you that the military will hold the line, that the military will live up to their obligations to protect this nation, and they will continue to be in harm's way, and they'll do it even if they're not paid, because that's what they believe in, a cause greater than themselves. And we owe it to them here in Congress and in the Senate to hold up our end of our constitutional duty for this nation, to fund this government, to fund them, to make sure that there's not a negative cascading training effect and readiness effect on our military as they protect us. So I urge my colleagues here in the House and the Senate to make sure that we fund this government, get it going. And I will want to say, look, I'm going to dedicate my pay every single day to a veterans charity, and I call on Senator Schumer and my own senators, Senator Kaine and Senator Warner, to do the same and join me. Thank you.
Well, I join my colleagues here in standing firm and opposing this devastating Schumer shutdown of the federal government. It's a sad day for our country, but you know, what makes it even sadder is that this was totally unavoidable. There was nothing in the House bill that was passed to the Senate that Senate Democrats opposed. Funding for our troops, providing essential health insurance for children, and keeping the federal government open. There was nothing in that bill for them to oppose. In Ohio, this is going to have devastating effects. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Air Reserve bases and National Guard bases throughout our state. Those people are going to face a great deal of uncertainty starting today. But the children, 224,000 Ohio children that depend on the Children's Health Insurance Program. This is absolutely uncalled for. Didn't have to happen, and it's a sad day that Senate Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, have decided to take this irresponsible course instead of standing up to their responsibility and doing what their constitutional mandate is, which is support and defend the Constitution of the United States. I join my colleagues in calling on Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats, come back. We're here. We're ready to work. We stand ready to open the government back up, to fund our military, and to provide health insurance for these kids. I hope you'll join us.
Very good. We'll take a few questions. Yes?
Yeah, thank you. Nash Jenkins from Time Magazine. The Democrats have made it clear that the issue at hand here is immigration. They're saying they're doing this because they want a DACA fix that was promised that they didn't get. And the contention seems to be between the House and the Senate. Many are saying that Republicans in the House wouldn't vote for a bill that Republicans in the Senate would vote for. What is the middle ground you guys would go to if it came down to an immigration compromise? Where could you meet? Where is the point of compromise?
Right. Well, the first order of business is to get the government funded and to stop this shutdown. The negotiations were going on. There was negotiations in good faith between the House and the Senate, the White House, over immigration, over the DACA fix. There's large support for moving forward on that. But we need more time, and that should not be used to put the country through this shutdown and the shutdown's completely unnecessary and hurting people when it doesn't need to happen. Yes.
Today, first day of the shutdown, a couple hours old, it's clear you guys are trying to pin this on the Democrats. How long can it last, though, before you have to start worrying about the public turning on you and saying, well, the Republicans are in charge, why don't they just open the government back up?
Well, the Senate Democrats made a decision last night, and I'm hopeful that even today, that they will reconsider that decision that they made, that choice that they made last night to move us in this direction of a shutdown. And so that we're waiting for the Senate right now. We're waiting for the Senate Democrats, and we're hoping that even today they would vote to agree to the continuing resolution, get it on the president's desk so that we can go about the business, the important business that the people expect us to do.
Congressman, if the Senate doesn't vote on the measure that you've already passed, and I think Senator Graham has introduced or talked about a 3-week funding measure, is that something that would obviously have to go back to the House? Is that something your conference could get behind? Is support building for that short-term measure?
Right. We're open. We put a good faith effort through the House. We had Democrat support on the continuing resolution that passed the House. There was Democrat support on the continuing resolution in the Senate, too. But Senator Schumer made the decision, and they need to figure out what they can move forward with on the Senate, and we're waiting for them to take action. We're impressing upon them the urgency of taking that action very soon, because every day that goes by, that means that children are not having the certainty that they need through the Children's Health Insurance Program, and our troops are left with uncertainty over what the pay is and what those next steps are going to be for them.
Kathy,
Yes, please.
I'd just like to add something to this about the Children's Health Insurance Program. Alabama's going to be one of the hardest hit states. We're in the midst of the biggest flu epidemic that we've seen in years. And last night, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats put in danger the families of millions of kids who might wind up getting the flu. Those parents ought to be contacting the Senate today, demanding that they move forward and allow the government to be funded so that we can provide the insurance that is in our bill.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Yep.
Last question. Congressman, you and others have mentioned the troops. Last night, Senator McCaskill tried to bring up a measure to, if there's a shutdown, make sure the military personnel are paid. Senator McConnell suggested they may get to that. Should they try to pass that today in the Senate? Would the House be open to passing something like that as negotiations continue?
Well, bottom line, there's no reason for us to be putting anybody through this uncertainty right now. And it's really disappointing that the Senate made the decision that they did. So we're hoping that they will pass the continuing resolution that was agreed to, that passed the House yesterday with a big vote, or the day before, bipartisan support, and get that on the president's desk so that we can get to these other issues. Thank you all.
Kathy McMorris Rogers is the chair of the Republican Conference.